Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of A Piece of Ash. This is my monthly sit-in Q&A show where I take your questions, I try and get through as many as I can in roughly an hour, and I sit and work on projects. So this week, we'll be taking questions. There was a very short amount of time in between the previous Piece of Ash and this one, due to the fact that I had all of the Horus Heresy stuff come in the middle of it. Then I went on vacation. So I did let this one go a little bit late. I think I'm filming this the 6th, it'll go out the 7th, but that gave enough time for there to be more responses and stuff in this episode. And I will try and get through all of them. I'm going to be working on some Legion Recon Squad members for my Alpha Legion. These are some really cool power armor scouts, basically. Before there were Space Marine scouts, there was Space Marines with chameleon line and power armor, firing modified super bolters, and God, they're just cool. And they have the coolest shotguns. Oh man, they're so cool. I'll probably just be sitting here cleaning these while I talk. And I've also got 32 mil bases for them because I need them to go on that. And a Legion Master of Signals and Champion. The Champion's gonna get converted into something else. So he's probably not gonna get built today, but the Master Signal will get built because I feel like having a guy bombarding you from space when you're not looking is kind of an Alpha Legion thing to do. So he's gonna get done. We are going to get into some questions now while I unpack these and start cleaning. So let's jump right in. It's just every time. Pacific Rim Job asks, I know before you said the co-op's full with all 3 tables taken, but have you ever considered digital expansion and creating a network of linked people who produce good content? No. That already exists. It's called some WGC, I think it's called. I see that letter alliteration all over the place. They already do that, and so does Mini Wargaming. There's no reason for me to do that. This is a physical co-op. Aggregators for digital content, Bell Lussells, they already all do that. There's no reason to. It already exists. People already go to other places to go find that stuff, so just starting another one it would be a lot of effort probably to get that going and wouldn't really do anything. So I'm not really planning on doing that. I try and keep cooperation physical in this sort of a thing, so that means that me going and helping out at things like tournaments and stuff like that. So I'm more than happy to do that stuff, but as far as like going and doing some kind of digital online thing, I love chatting with people, so that's why I did like the hobby resolutions thing. I think that's more my jam, is community oriented stuff like that has nothing to do with people making content. It's more to do with like, hey, let's all encourage each other and have positive feedback and do that. Whereas aggregating content, there's a gajillion things out there to do already. So the next question is Matt Meldrum. Other than Alpha Legion, what Horus Heresy era legions are your favorites? Not just colors and such, but also fluff. I have to say that it's funny because, of course, both of the books that are my favorite 3 books are all Dan Abnett books. I love Prospero Burns and I love Legion. And those books really spoke to me as far as like being sort of seminal in creating, not the Daniverse, which is the 40k universe that Dan Abnett's kind of created in the contemporary 40k universe, but the 30k Daniverse, I guess, which is his view of the prehistory of the Imperium and stuff like that. So I love the Space Wolves as portrayed in Prospero Burns. They have this illusion of being the noble savage, basically, but they're a lot cannier and they know a lot more about what's going on than people think, which I really enjoy. I also enjoyed that it was basically a huge gaffe to the 13th Warrior, along with the Scald and, the man basically out of his country, becoming one with like a people that were, again, noble savages and, going on adventure. It's got a very Tolkien-esque Eaters of the Dead sort of vibe to it, which I thought was super cool. And then, believe it or not, one of my other favorites, like books by him, is besides Legion and Prospero Burns, is of course the Horus Rising, and it's not actually the portrayal of the Sons of Horus, or as they're called then, the Luna Wolves, that I think is so compelling. I really like the portrayals of other legions. So like, I actually love Nathaniel Garrow's portrayal. But I wouldn't want to do any Acton Cruz. So I wouldn't necessarily want to make a Death Guard army, but I would love to do a Dusk Raiders army, like a pre-Great Crusade sort of thing. And then outside of Dan and his writing, I think that there's been some great stuff with The Outcast Dead. It got panned a bit as a novel, But the fact that there's a Thunder Warrior in it, if you haven't read it yet and you don't know what a Thunder Warrior is, that's, if you're a kind of a nerd for Horus Heresy fiction, that is so cool. That the last Thunder Warrior is basically in that book. It also has probably the most like awesomely badass Luna Wolf, and some relatively cool other minor characters too. One of whom is a big gaffe to what is his name, Ken Watanabe's character from The Last Samurai, the Perfect Warrior, whose weapon is the truth. And it's again, it's an interesting sort of like, it's an interesting bit of writing. So I really enjoyed that one too. I think it was Graham McNeil. But yeah, so those would be my favorite legions and sort of bits. I actually really want to paint my Killclade as well from Execution Force as a Horus Heresy force, and I'll just use it as a Killclade in Horus Heresy because they do that. They actually, there's an entire book called, oh shoot, what is it? It's not Execution Force. I want to say Execution Force now, but that's the name of the board game. It's called, I don't remember. I actually don't remember right now, but it's entirely about assassins in the Horus Heresy, and it has a Killclade with an Everzor, a Vindicare, a Caluxus, and whatchamacallit, Caluxus, Vindicare, Everzor, and what's the fourth one? Caluxus, Vindicare, Everzor. It's the Psychic one, the Murder one, the Gun one. Oh, and the Kalidas one, the Infiltrator. Yeah, the Kalidas. And because they are actually unleashed in the Horus Heresy, I think it would just be cool to paint them. And they'd be exactly the same as they are today. They'd have the same tech. They'd be all dressed the same. Like, you'd have to do nothing to them, basically, except for make them the guys from that book, which I think is crazy cool. And I'm totally, like, gonna do. So that's an additional thing I think I'll do. So yeah, I'm pretty gushing over Horus Heresy right now. I got some vehicles to build, but I want to get these recon guys done first, just to give myself some more troops options, and then I'm gonna jump into other things. Jay Vince asks, what paints did you use for your Alpha Legion? So much better than the usual blue I keep finding around the web. I did my Alpha Legion in it's kind of an old school, new school color scheme. So this is the way I've always seen in my head Alpha Legion being painted. And it is base coated in Dryad bark, Citadel Dryad bark. Then it is Zenith Fleet airbrushed with Incubi Darkness, and then Zenith Fleet airbrushed again, slightly lighter for more highlights with Old Hawk Turquoise. And then it is edge highlighted with Warpstone Glow, Citadel Warpstone Glow, and then Citadel Sybarite Green. And that is the whole thing of it. And I actually, I show it off in my in this week's on the painting table as well. So look for that this weekend, because that'll have a pit, like, you'll actually be able to see the miniatures and hear me talk about it as well. Gareth, Kill Frenzy, oh, sorry, Frenzy Kitty. I was gonna say Kill Frenzy, which is my favorite name for a spaceship in Battlefleet Gothic, because it just goes around screaming Kill Frenzy. So Frenzy Kitty, sorry, Gareth Frenzy Kitty asks, how often have you got a starter set and just left it at that level for a while before bolstering up your army? I've done that a bit with Age of Sigmar, but it's different in Age of Sigmar because even though it was a new game, all of my existing miniatures were compatible with it. So like, it wasn't like I bought a starter set for a game I'd never played before and didn't have anything outside the starter set, right? I had all this other like already painted stuff that I experimented with. So I kind of plowed through the Stormcast really fast. I reinforced a couple of the squads, and then I was like on to other things. I was like, I want to try playing my Bretonnians. I want to try playing this. I want to try playing that. And it sort of, I won't say distracted me, but it certainly meant that I wasn't as like desperate to buy, and I still have a ton of like unpainted Stormcast stuff that I just haven't finished because I've got just a bajillion things to do, but it wasn't pressing because I could play the game no problem with all the stuff I already had. Other than that, it's not very often that I will get into a game and just like quit at the starter set. I can't think of anything else this year that we started playing that I didn't just go completely bananas. I'm looking at my shelves right now trying to figure out like, is there just like a starter set of models painted up there anywhere? No, every army has like lots of options and like, why did I paint so much Frostgrave stuff and like questions like that. And oh my god, I painted a lot of Malifaux, and oh my god, I painted a lot of Infinity this year. I painted a lot of everything, but like I just painted a lot of models this year. Yeah, so not very often. I think Age of Sigmar is the most recent one, but it wasn't for the reason that you'd think. Potato's Gonna Potato asked, though you only recently moved back to Canada, is there something uniquely Southern or US that you miss? Here's the thing with the Southern US. it's, you know, it's got all of the things going for it that people say, and all the things going against it that people say. It's got lots of inequality and poverty in some spots. It's got lots of just industry struggles and economic struggles and stuff going on, which is rough. You know, industry's pulled out of there. Agriculture's pulled out of there. Stuff's pulled out and isn't necessarily coming back. But at the same time, it's been that way for a lot longer than other places. And what I found about the southern US was people on the whole aren't the hot news flash items that you would read in the rest of the US and North America about the South. On the whole, most people in the southern United States are just the most welcoming, like, and I mean of all races and economic classes, like the most welcoming people I've probably ever lived with. And mostly it's because they're all in a situation, they're all kind of like equalized by the situation they're in. You know, it's hard to get jobs. It's hard to make do. It's hard to get X or Y because you're where you are in a lot of places. And that just meant that everybody just, for the most part, got along. And there's places where they don't, and that's fine, but it's not like a big city. Like, it's not like in Canada where I found, because there was less sort of visible, you know, like issues and problems, it got marginalized. Almost because there was less of it, it got pushed to one side and almost ignored. When people are all kind of forced to face that stuff together, it just tends to push people together, which I think is despite what the internet says and people try to tell you, is a more common occurrence than not, and gave me a lot of faith in, you know, the people who were around me. I never felt unsafe living there, and I always felt like the people were inordinately, how can I put it, welcoming and friendly, and always sought to like know more about where I came from and who I was. And I miss that because you don't get that in big cities. I didn't get that in, like, for the most part in Canada. And Canadians are friendly, don't get me wrong, but they don't seek the level of understanding I think that I saw being sought a lot in the southern United States, and that's a big deal. And I miss fried okra, like with pepper sauce. Oh man, it was so good. And I miss Gus's chicken, which is like the best fried chicken on the planet, and the fried chicken by which all fried chicken for the rest of my life will be measured forever. And I miss Line and Kugel because I can't get it here, and that sucks. But yeah, that'd pretty much be it. Gakillian asks, considering the themes and aesthetics of the 18 founding Space Marine chapters, what do you think the missing two could be themed around, and why do you think they were expunged? So there's a question, and I'm gonna preface my answer to this question with something that no one wants to hear. Is whatever answer I give you will be made up. And the reason for that is there is no answer. So this would be, if what you're asking me is, this is what my fan fiction answer for that would be. Because I know for a fact, this is because I've talked to the guys that wrote, you know, I've sat and had dinner and talked to the guys that wrote the background and did the seminal sort of like creation of how the background gets made for this game. Is that the holes are more important than the answer. Is that those two missing legions, there's never going to be an answer as to who they were and why they were expunged. But they're always going to be alluded to and prodded at because it creates the conversation. If you're talking about a hobby where collecting and building things and filling things in with your imagination is part of what drives sales and what drives forward the business, then the holes in the Swiss cheese are the most important because they open up the imagination of the consumer. And that's why it doesn't exist. So they will never give you an answer to that question on purpose because it inspires us to try and come up with that answer for ourselves, and it keeps us building models and obsessing over the background and the lore. And a great piece of writing, and this is what Star Wars got wrong with episodes 1, 2, and 3, is it gave you all the answers. A great piece of writing leaves you with an itch of, I want to know more about this and I want to know more about that. And those two legions are that itch in the 40k background, especially in the Horus Heresy. So, with that being said, what would my fan fiction answer be? So what would if I got to write the background for 40k and I was going to ruin it like George Lucas ruined Star Wars, what would my answer be? Well, so what do we know? We know some allusion to the story. So for instance, we know that Russ has something to do with at least one of those legions disappearing, because in Prospero Burns, Russ and the Skeld have this moment where the Skeld's, you know, basically at a loss, going, oh, that it could come to this, that brother fought brother. And Russ looks at him and goes, you think this has never happened before? And so the illusion there is that that brother has fought brother before, and that as Russ has basically self-styled himself the Emperor's executioner, he's had something to do with the destruction of a Space Marine Legion in the past. And so there's that. That's a known factor. That's in print. That is a thing that we can hold true as being true. So what would my thought be then as to why would the Emperor unleash the Space Wolves, unleash Leman Russ on a Legion, and have them wiped from existence? And of course, like any good 40k lore, what you have to do is you have to take something in our own cultural myths and then give it a 40k twist. So you have to take something from the human story, right? The human story, the big story of humanity and our myths and our legends and our backgrounds, and try and turn it into a 40k, make a 40k version of it. And what I would take is the story of Cain and Abel, because it fits. It fits. Why would God, so the Emperor, why would he basically strike down one of his creations, right? One of his creations that were supposed to be perfect. And it would be because that one's the first murderer, because that's the first one to turn on a brother and kill it. So I think that one of the legions was wiped out by the second Jealous Legion, and then Russ was sent to basically make them pay, and he did. So the crime of one of the legions is murder. They turned on and betrayed for whatever reasons. Reasons don't matter. Jealousy, whatever. It can be whatever your driving factor is for that myth of Cain and Abel, and that story, that parable, right? And they turned on and wiped out that legion. And so for the crime of murder, the Emperor has them executed, and he sends Russ, and that would be why. So, and so that's why they don't talk about it, right? Because one of the legions does the unthinkable. He doesn't betray the Emperor, but he slays one of his brothers, basically. He kills one of his brothers, whether it's in a rage or it's an accident, or probably not an accident, it's premeditated if it's murder, but for whatever reason, that parable unfolds in the 40k universe, and a legion and Primarch murder their brothers, and Russ basically makes them pay. He destroys them. And so it could be that they don't actually like wipe out the Legion, but they kill the Primarch, and for whatever reason that Legion becomes unviable in the future, and the Emperor basically just has the Legion destroyed. and that's what I would do. So that would be my fan fiction version of where those two legions went. And so I don't care what their background is, or their story, or their name. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I really care about is why don't they exist anymore? And if I was going to write the background bit, it would be the story. It would basically be the parable of Cain and Abel. It would be that first murder story. Respondent skipped this question and did not give me a name, asks, what are your thoughts on Wrath of Kings and Bushido? What parts of them do you like, and what parts of them do you not like? So I haven't played Bushido. There was a guy ages ago who said he was going to try and get me to play it, and then it didn't happen. But I would happily give it a try if someone wanted to come and play and give it a go. But Wrath of Kings, I'm going to be playing that with my buddy Jordan, who's a Legionnaire for Cool Mini or Not. And I have a Guerrilla and a Union, not Union, what are they called? The guys with the pigs. I have those two armies to get painted so I can give it a try. So I can kind of comment on that one. What I think is cool about that is the single dice table system. It's very unique. It's an interesting gimmick where everything is resolved on one table on the card. Their deck building sort of thing where you have X number of it's almost a point-free system. You just have sort of an army size, like a threat value, but it is a point system really, and then everything's assigned points, so it's designed based on its rank, basically how you can bring it in, and you have X number of ranks of stuff. I think it's pretty fluid and interesting. What I don't like about it right now is there's not enough stuff for me to not feel like the armies are kind of the same. There isn't a lot of room right now, just with the current releases that I've seen, to tinker, and it's a game where it has a really great system for tinkering with all the ranks and stuff, but it's suffering right now from, well, there's only 3 things to pick from, and this one's the best, or you know what I mean? Or this one will fit with these guys that are also out. You know, why would I take this third guy if the guys that make him good aren't released yet? Or there's nothing around that makes him good yet? So I think that's my only real complaint right now, is it's a bit young for it to have a lot of the tinkering and playing with your army list depth that really hooks you into a game. The models are great. I'm going to paint up the Gritzy stuff, I think, first, because they're just super cool. But yeah, as for the rest of it, we'll see. I've yet to play it, so I don't really know. I'm just commenting based on looking at the rules. Ty asks, I'm trying to wrap my head around building a 30k list. Any tips? I'm doing Sons of Horus, by the way. Well, it's funny. you get to 3,000 points really fast in this game. And it's because stuff's so good. Like, for the most part, the vehicles and the dreadnoughts and, like, everything's at, like, a stage of power higher than, like, their 40k equivalents in the Space Marine army list. But it is all Space Marines. And then the other half is that, like, when you're list building, unless you take a Rites of War that allows you to take other things, you're making 30-man blobs of tactical Marines, or, like, at least 10-man blobs of just guys with bolters. And it feels weird, because you look at them and you're like, it's just 10 guys with bolters. Like, what are they going to do against other guys in power armor? Like, they don't seem that good in power armor. And that's kind of the thrust of the whole Civil War, right? You've got guys who were never designed to fight each other, now constantly fighting each other. And so I think the first thing you do is you decide if you're going to use a right that changes your army list, and then that's where you start building models. But if you just have a pile of infantry, I think the easiest way to build your starting army, it's what I did, is to use the Pride of the Legion Rites of War, because it just makes everything troops. Like, everything's a veteran, so Terminator squads of troops, veteran squads of troops, and veteran squads look like tactical squads in the current edition, so they're kind of easy to wrap your brain around. And it just makes the game a little bit more fluid. So it's not like you're taking these big bolter squads and then you're taking support squads that go with them that don't actually fill mandatory troop slots. Like, you can't take them as the things you have to take, basically. And that kind of, like, slows your painting down and makes your painting a little bit more dense and, like, requires you to paint more stuff. And then after that, you just kind of add in stuff as you like it. I think Horus Heresy is one of those great things where it's a Space Marine, a Space Marine, a Space Marine, and you just pick the things that you like. Like, that's what you do, and for the most part, it'll work out. Like, it's a bit fun that way, because you just pick the models and the miniatures that you really think are cool, and then you play. And it's all just Space Marines fighting Space Marines, so it's going to be hard to have the power scale tip too far in one direction. Crownblade asks, with both the co-op and we're going to be doing 30k, are we going to see a 3 versus 3 game? Well, I don't know, maybe. I don't tend to do 3 versus 3 games because they take a long time, and I don't know who we'd play against. So, like, I don't know. I'll probably play Steve. I'm sure Steve's army will be painted first, because Steve paints really fast. And he's super excited about his whatchamacallit right now. And he didn't just paint a studio army. He actually went and bought all his own stuff, I think. So he's actually probably taking it home and actually working on his own time and stuff as well. So you'll probably see his Iron Warriors done pretty fast. And Steve and I haven't hung out in a while, so I'm sure we'll get some 30k games in soon. Angry Beard asks, hey man, what do you think of 9th Age? I actually just played my first couple games of 9th Age. I did a new thing I tried out for the Out of the Basement series called Let's Play, where I solo walk through and do a demo of the game, and then I played a couple games of that one. And I will reserve my comments for those videos, but I'm going to be playing more of it, is all I'll say right now. Daniel Rose asks, what do you feel the weakest or least played army in Age of Sigmar? Oh, dude, I don't even know. Like, Age of Sigmar is so young, I don't think that's even shook out yet. Like, that's a hard thing to determine when you're talking about a game that's not even, a year old. It's like 5 or 6 months old. So it's not even, I have no idea. I really just don't know, because, like, it's so new that I really have no idea what the answer to that question would be. I mean, I guess the only thing I could say, I think the least seen one probably will still be the Resin Chaos Dwarves, because you got to have a Resin Chaos Dwarf army. I don't even know if you can buy half that stuff anymore from Forge World, so that would be it. That's purely on, like, a mechanical answer, not anything to do with the game. It's just, like, availability of models. Gary, Guildball, what do you think of it? I saw guys playing it at Food Drop. I don't have it. It looks neat. The demo I saw was guys playing basically on just, like, an empty wood board with unpainted models, though, so I don't have a lot of opinion about the models. I didn't take a close look at them. I was playing an Infinity Tournament at the time. But from what I heard, it's Blood Bowl with War Machine mechanics and Warcasters and stuff. So you had me at Blood Bowl. Like, the rest of it I didn't care about. You had me basically at Blood Bowl. If I can get my hands on starters, the problem right now, of course, is there is a 100% markup on anything that comes from the UK into Canada, because our dollar is in the crapper in a huge, enormous way. So I can't justify really importing stuff from the UK right now that's not, like, vital and, like, a new game that I'm not really sure about. I just can't do it right now, because that's baby food and diapers. So I want to give it a go. I've seen some guys playing it over in Buffalo. If they want to come give it a try, if you guys are watching, that'd be great. But yeah, I'll give it a go when I give it a go. I think it's one of those things that I would love to see and try. Guy Mar asks, hey Ash, so wanted to know if you're like me. As your level of painting skill increases, do you find it harder to make quick tabletop quality painted armies? No, I've gone past that curve. Sometime around 2005 or 2006, I'd caught in a couple of Golden Demons at various games days. I just stopped caring about quality painted miniatures. I started painting for fun again. And I was actually talking about this a long time ago with my buddy Tim Lyson. He's a great painter. He manages a shop down in Orland in Chicago. And he's, again, a multiple Golden Demon winner guy, painted for years and years and years. And he still occasionally likes, like when we were sitting talking, this is his words, and this, I'm just gonna echo this because it's basically how I feel. He would sit down and paint occasionally a model to like the best of his ability, but the level of like attention to detail and focus you need to do that isn't relaxing. For some people, and I'm one of those people, and I guess he is too. And so it's, to me, it would be like the difference between like doing like a Chuck Close photorealist, I hope you guys know who that is, Chuck Close like photorealist drawing, where the guy is using like pencil to make something that's photorealistic, and is that level of detail, to like the lilies, you know what I mean, where you've got you know, a wonderful impressionist painter slowly going blind, the water lilies. If you don't know what that is, again, I'm sorry, you don't know Monet, but you got a guy going blind, and what he's doing is he's literally painting his impressions of lilies in the water, and they're huge, but it's all broad strokes, right? And it's almost, it looks like it's his therapy for how he's dealing with things. And so I'm at that stage of my painting where I paint to enjoy myself and relax, and I don't focus on the details so much. I still like having nice, clean, crisp paint jobs, and I do, but like with the speed that I paint at, it's not the best I can paint to. It's just not. This is workman-like, sort of like production line painting that I do. And I do it because it's rhythmic and it's relaxing, and it sort of brings me down to almost a psychic null where my brain can defragment. And so yeah, so I think I'm past that point, dude. I think I've gotten to a point where I occasionally do paint a model really nicely, and it's usually because I'm in love with the model and I really want to do it the best of my ability, but I don't have any interest in like comparing my painting to other people's painting. I know I can paint really well. Like I'm not worried about comparing to other people's painting. And I don't have the desire to sit and paint one model for 60 hours, you know, and do like that level of painting. It doesn't do anything for me. Now, that being said, I have friends who love that, and that is their like Zen relaxation. My buddy Seth down in San Francisco, he will spend hours figuring out the most insane way to do something by throwing water at a miniature or fire or something. But that's his, I think that's his relaxation. His mind trying to solve that problem is how he relaxes and paints. And I think it's just because I'm wired different. So yeah, that is what it is. I'm Alfarius asks, hey Ash, first I'd like to say, I hope you have a great Christmas. Thanks, man. And you inspired me. I've bought 2 Battle of Calths and I need some tips on what to add next for my Alpha Legion. Man, Alpha Legion's an army whose infantry really benefits from their Legion abilities. And so that Betrayal of Calth box just gives you so much infantry. I think what would be really neat is actually not really to add anything that isn't a walker or infantry at that point. You've got 10 Terminators, you've got 60 Marines, you got some characters, you got 2 Dreads, or Contemptor Dreads. So like you're pretty set as far as like just making an army. You could probably pretty easily pull at 2,000 points, like competitive 2,000 points, with like support squads, bolter squads, a Praetor, you know what I mean, and have them infiltrate and have them do all kinds of cool stuff, and just give it a go. If you're gonna add anything, I think adding maybe more, like filling out your mana pool of dreadnoughts. So adding 3rd dreadnought, so you have a full mana pool of contemptors. Is not a mana pool; they're called Talon. It's like Talon's contemptors, but a full contemptor Talon would be cool. And then maybe just getting the upgrade kits, because that's really what you need at that point with all those bodies, is things like getting Volkite chargers or getting more heavy weapons and stuff like that. Forge World's actually really, I think, done a smart thing in going back to being accessories, and there's a plastic kit you can buy that they can do accessories for, because you can up-arm every miniature that comes in that box in a really cool way and have a really cool, unique looking army just by getting odds and ends. So that's what I would look at, is like, do I want to give you guys different guns, different weapons, power weapons, stuff like that. Manuel asks, hey Ash, my group and I are considering getting into Malifaux. Do you have any tips or heads up for starting Malifaux? How to start collecting force, tips of scenery, where to learn? So buy the new 2-player starter. Even if you never play either of those factions, every single one of those models is a mercenary. And you can actually because they're all mercenaries, you can just play one army or one half as its faction and then add the other half to it. You can actually use the whole box as a single player army if you want to. It's brilliant. Weird did just a fantastic job of putting that box together and making it useful to everybody. So you hear this at a lot of star sets. They're like, hey, it's great for everyone. It is literally the box that anybody can use, and all of the models have some value. I love the Sign of Blackblood. I love Angel. I love them all. Grimwell is great. The attendants are great. Like, it's a fantastic box. So, and it comes with a free PDF of the full rulebook. It comes with cards, tape measures, whatever. Then again, for Malifaux in particular, I think gaming mats work great. Any 3x3 gaming mats. Frontline makes fantastic ones. I've heard good things about the Mats by Mars ones, but I've never actually seen them in person. If you're in Europe, Urban Mats is doing some really nice 3x3 ones. And then for your terrain collection, make your own terrain. Terrain for Malifaux can be simple: trees, woods, crates, barrels, whatever. Easy to make, easy to buy if you want to get prefab as well. And all you have to do is fill up a third of that table. That's it. So matching terrain that fills up one third. So take a column a third long, fill it up. That's all you have to do, and you are ready to play. And then there's a whole phase where you actually deploy terrain and stuff, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. And where to learn? Go on the weird website, look for a henchman. Henchman can get you a demo. In fact, I'm actually the Niagara henchman for Malifaux. If anyone wants to get a Malifaux demo in this area, just shoot me an email, guerrillaminiaturegames@gmail.com, and I will happily have you over to the co-op to do a demo. We'll even film it, and you can just play a quick game. I have 2-player starters, and yeah, we're ready to play basically anytime. Devin asks, if Games Workshop's a model company, then why do they sell rules and army books? To give you a reason to buy models. That's easy. They sell rules and army books because it encourages you to buy more models. That's it. That's the only reason why. You could play them. You could play any miniature game with just cardboard counters, with pogs if you wanted to, but you don't, and people don't. That's not how people work. So rules exist to sell miniatures, and that's really the only reason. And so, if they didn't sell the models, then they wouldn't need the rules. But they continue to make the rules to sell the models. But their focus will always be the models, because they don't make money off the books. They can print books forever. And that's, I think, a big part of why Age of Sigmar is just giving the rules away for free. I think it's genius, because there's no overhead. You can update it instantly. You can have the rules available to everyone. They're all in an app. They're easy to use. So now there's no overhead, and people will buy models. It's genius. And a lot of the stuff moving to digital production as well, being in like the iTunes store and through ebook and Mobi and stuff like that, or EPUB and Mobi and stuff like that, is also genius, because it's no printing cost. You don't have to pay to print any books, and you never have overstock sitting in a warehouse somewhere. You never have stuff get lost in a container ship somewhere in the middle of the Pacific. You just have people click a button and give you money, and iTunes takes their rip or whatever. But again, they have a reason to buy models. So will they continue to sell rules and army books? Always, because people buy models that way, because they're a model company. And I don't want to sound obtuse, but that's the only reason they do rules. Was if people needed to eat miniatures every day to survive, they would not need rules, because you'd have to eat miniatures. But people want a reason to buy more miniatures, and the rules do that. So that's why they keep making them. Homebrew Worlds asks, hey Ash, why is it that GW stopped naming the sculptors and designers as much on their website or in White Dwarf? They seem much more visible. I would guess it's because there's more than one person involved in sculpting every frame now, and every kit, because most of what you see is being done digitally, right? So these miniatures are being designed on a computer. Even Corvus Belli is doing that. Like you've got people that are digitally sculpting things, because the technology has come so far that there's not a lot of putty pushing that happens anymore. I think Forge World's probably the biggest collection of putty pushers left in GW, and everything else is being designed on a computer somewhere. And what's happening now is I think the putty pushers of old are teaching the digital designers about designing and the concept stage and the art and the drawing and stuff, and then how to make that something that's a digital reality that then gets spit into a tooling machine to tool molds to spit into physical reality. And of course it's rapid prototype along the way, so you can do a touch test and stuff too, but that's a whole other thing. And so I'd imagine that it's become a little more murky as to who the sculptor is. Because before, when it was a putty pusher, you know, if Jess Goodwin sculpted something, he did it himself, start to finish. Like if you ever get the old Jess Goodwin sketchbooks, some of my favorite old Citadel publications for Black Library are his old sketchbooks, because everything that guy drew was perfectly replicated as a miniature. Like he could just take the picture that he had drawn and make it a physical reality in front of him. The guy was just that talented. And we're talking about that, you know, 25, 30 years ago, he's that talented. He can just visualize something and make it physically come into being. That's a talent that's just insane. And if you flip through that sketchbook, you see miniatures and they look, the concept that he drew for them, he had the idea of what it was gonna look like, looks exactly like the model when it's done. And it's just amazing. And so that's easy. Like, guy goes from concept to physical reality. You can name that sculptor. That guy did the whole process. When you've got 50 different concept artists and then 25 different, I'm pulling these numbers in the air, but I don't know what the numbers are, but like, if you have a huge pool or posse of concept artists, and a huge pool and posse of guys doing digital model design and tooling them for the frames and making sure they all fit and they can actually be produced, then how do you pick out the guy that gets the credit? Is it the team lead? Is it the guy who's the department head? Like, who gets the credit when it's a team effort? And so I think that's probably why. That's my guess. I don't really know that that's the case, but I know that that's where the technology and the stuff's headed. So like, yeah, naming a single individual would be harder and harder these days. Sanjay asks, why do you think GW is bringing back specialist games? Do you think they will sell better than before? I think that they will print less of them. I think that you won't see a huge permanent bay of them in any of the retail stores, because that's you're making stuff that you don't know if it's all going to sell at some point. I think when they come back, it won't be the way that people remember it. It won't be like there's a Mordheim section in the store now and there's a bunch of blisters of Mordheim stuff. It'll be, hey, check it out. Here's a box set. And here's maybe a couple of things to go with that box set. And we're going to sell through that. And then we're going to do another one next year that's some other different game. Because I think right now what's happening is people are making assumptions as to what bring back specialist games means. I don't think it means what a lot of people out there think it means, where there's going to be a department making specialist games. I think what you're going to have is a department that's making fun nods to great games of old, and playing with that IP and bringing it back with a new face and a new shine, great new miniatures, in a more contained and tight package, where it's not a sprawling range of miniatures. It's a nice, concise box set. So it's more like an Execution Force or a Space Hulk, or something like that, than it is a new existing fun range that goes into the stores. I don't think you'll ever see that happen again. But I think you'll see a lot of great games come back. I'm super excited because it just means more great miniatures for me to build and paint, and more people coming in and playing games. So I mean, you're talking about my teenage years, right? My coming up as a hobbyist. That's coming back basically. And so I'm predisposed to love it. Like, I'm not gonna, because no matter what it is, and because of the way I'm wired, right? If it's not the same game, like if they bring back a self-contained version of Blood Bowl, it's got 4 teams in it and just the rules for those 4 teams, I'm never gonna care, because I have new Blood Bowl miniatures, probably a new pitch and some new counters and stuff, and I can still play my own version of Blood Bowl with all that stuff, right? It's never gonna be incompatible with what I did before. It's just like if they do a new Necromunda with plastic gangers and stuff, and some cool new scenery, I can just play classic Necromunda with that too. Like, I'm the guy that doesn't, if he's got more toys, that just makes him happy. And I don't care how compatible the new edition is with the old edition. Stuart asks, do you know anything about the 2 classified legions that were whipped clean from the records? Do I know anything? I know that there's nothing to know. There is no man behind the curtain. The guys behind the curtain are just idiots like me trying to keep the lights on. Yeah, so you already heard that answer. I hope that's it's the least satisfying answer ever, but yeah, you got my fan fiction version of what I think the answer to that is. And my promise that there is no answer, because there not being an answer is more important than there being an answer. Dave Smells Like Poo asks, hey Ash, regarding proxying between everything must be modeled exactly to use whatever, I don't care, what's your personal preference? Would you ever refuse to play something because of a proxy? Okay, so proxying. So my whole thing with proxying is gonna go back, and I'm gonna use some legalese here. It's gonna go back to intent. If your intent is to either A, create a gotcha moment where your opponent doesn't know what you're doing and you get to pull one over on him because he's confused, then I don't like proxying. If you're doing it because you're cheap and you just don't want to spend the money to have a miniature in your army that exists, then I don't like proxying. If you're doing it because what you'd like to try out doesn't exist yet, and there's maybe a subtle different model of the same type, so like I'll use Infinity as an example because it's a game where proxying is rampant, where you got a guy with a machine gun who is visibly, let's say, a Spetsnaz guy, and you give him the arm of a machine gun from somebody. That's not even proxying, actually. Because the guy that got used a lot was the Spetsnaz sniper. His sniper rifle looks like a big automatic sniper rifle. It looks like a machine gun. So he got used all the time as a Spetsnaz HMG. Technically, it's a proxy, but it's a Spetsnaz model, so it's a model of the same class, basically. And his gun is so close to not different from what it's supposed to be that, like, you look at it, and if you didn't already know that that was supposed to be a sniper rifle, you just say it was a machine gun. You wouldn't really know the difference. I'm fine with that. I think that's fine. But yeah, once something exists, and if your intent is either to pull one over on your opponent or just to be cheap, I don't want to play against that. I take pride in what I do, right? Like, I take pride in the miniatures I paint, and in the spectacle that goes into making a game. And if you're trying, if you're as an opponent, you don't respect your opponent's desire to do that through trying to cut corners, basically, it just turns me off. Like, it just makes me go, meh, I don't like that. You know, but in a lot of games, there's models that can be multiple profiles. Like Infinity's a good example of that too. There's a Father Knight miniature that comes in Operation Ice Storm, and he's just swinging a sword. And every Father Knight literally is armed with a sword. So you got a guy running around swinging a sword, and he could literally be any profile because the guns he's equipped with are all in addition to swinging a sword. So he's the perfect miniature. Like, Owen wants 3 of them because he loves Father Knights, and that Father Knight will often have a missile launcher or a combi rifle or a Spitfire. Like, it just, he'll have different equipment every time, but I know he's a Father Knight, so I just ask Owen, what's that Father Knight today? And Owen goes, oh, he's this, and I go, okay, and then I just file that away, and I know. It's the invisible equipment thing. And so I think it's horses for courses, but for me, intent's really important. If you're gonna have, like, if the mentality isn't a positive one as to why you're proxying, I'm not a fan. 8-Bit Hit asks, greetings from Vienna. Have you ever looked at Kingdom Death Monster? I have, actually. My buddy Diviet, who came in with his beautifully painted nomads. If you watch Radio Free Neoterra, you've seen his just like gorgeously painted nomads. He just got the Kingdom Death Kickstarter, and we probably stood around for like 2 hours with him like super excitedly talking about the Kingdom Death stuff. The problem I have with the Kingdom Death stuff is it is an incredibly beautifully built, immersive tabletop board game RPG hybrid. It's like a beautiful Hero Quest with friggin' weird 90s heavy metal aesthetics. Like, he showed me this cockatrice miniature that's literally a giant bird with like hands reaching out of its butthole. I'm just like, what are you showing me right now? This is insane. And it's got a really it's got a fairly adult like feel to it, and it's got some cheeky stuff and some just kind of like, whoa, that's bizarre, kind of like almost Clive Barker-y, Hellraiser-y kind of stuff going on. But because it's so uniquely personal, I don't know if it would make a great game to film. Like, I'll totally play it with Dave. Like, if he wants to have me paint some miniatures and we'll play the game, I'll give it a go. But like, I don't know how, because it's literally different every time you play. Your progression, like, you're modeling your miniatures to play as the game progresses. So like, you have a frame full of bits, and as your guy gets better, you build a new model for him each time and like make him different. And that's crazy. Like, you get so much stuff to do it with too. It's bananas. But I don't know how, like, we'd basically be able to play through the whole thing once, and it might not even go well. You know, like, it might just explode and not go well. So I don't know how, like, it's funny because it's a weird game. I don't know how to wrap my head around it. But I've seen it, and man, it's gorgeous. Like, it's super gorgeous. I just don't know where it fits into like doing content, because it's not necessarily a war game, right? It's not a tabletop war game, or it's a strategy game for sure, but it seems like more of an RPG. Sam asks, have you heard about Open Combat when you consider playing some games for the channel? P.S. Patreon backer. Open Combat. Is it a modern combat game? There's so many like either modern or modern rule set that can be used in different periods rule sets out there. I don't think I actually have heard of that one, but I will look it up. I do have a ton of modern miniatures that I was using for like zombie games and stuff like that are unpainted in a pile, and I will give it a go. What I am actually stoked about right now is Team Yankee? Team Yankee? The new Battlefront thing. It's the like speculative fiction World War III game. And my buddies Chris and Jay at Lords of War are like crazy excited about it, so you'll probably see me play Team Yankee. And it's in 15 mil, which means we can paint armies really fast and give it a go too. And because basically it could be used to make the movie Red Dawn in miniature game form, in which case I will have to have the Wolverines as a unit, and I hope I do. But I was already told I had to play the Russians, so yeah, because I don't get to play the A-10, because Chris is mean. So you guys all email Lords of War and tell Chris that I get to play the Americans, because I want to paint the A-10 Warthog and the Apache. Food asks, do you have any plans to do some large games, like 150 wound players or 3 or 4 players? Also, really like the beginning of Age of Sigmar when the battles had a narrative. I do try and put a narrative in every single game. 150 wounds or 3 or 4 players. I don't know about that, because honestly, just getting 3 or 4 players in here at the same time to play Age of Sigmar, it doesn't happen that often, right? We play evenings and weekends, and organizing that many people, that's more a mini wargaming thing. I'm sure at some point they'll be able to do that because they have more stuff at their disposal. I'm more of a pickup game with guys who come in with beautifully painted armies kind of a game. But we'll probably start doing 125 wounds and just larger game sizes too, because Age of Sigmar is pretty quick. I'm really liking the Can Hammer and LVO frontline gaming formats. And giving those standard game sizes a try. So you'll see more games for sure, and we'll keep using battle plans and stuff too. I really want to do like a dedicated, not just, hey, here's a bunch of like cool stuff I wanted to paint army for Age of Sigmar in the new year. And I want to talk about that stuff when I do my planning and stuff for 2012 or for 2016, because I don't really know what I want to do for Age of Sigmar, but I do want to do something new and different, and that's like dedicated Age of Sigmar as well. And I also want to do something for 9th Age. Like an army that's just designed for 9th Age. I think that'd be cool too. I have lots of unpainted miniatures. So that's it. I only had 25 questions this time. So we only went, we still went like almost 50 minutes. That's pretty good. I actually got really caught up in my answers. So I like clipped most of the bits off the frame, but I haven't cleaned most of this stuff. So I'll have to do that later. So thanks again for watching, guys. Now, if you want to get any question for next month's show, for the January show, that'll be the 2016 show, holy moly, click the link below and get your questions in now over the holidays, and I will answer them and get that up in the new year. So happy holidays, everybody, no matter what you celebrate. Spend some time with your loved ones, take some time off work, sit back and relax, enjoy. If you're to the south of us, your beautiful summer. If you're south of the equator, to the north, enjoy hopefully beautiful winter. And we'll get your questions for next time. So once again, for everyone watching, thank you for just a great year. 2015 was pretty freaking mind-blowing. I'm going to do an actual like year-end video and sort of an old Lang Syne video towards the end of the month. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you with lots more stuff in 2016. Till then, I'm Ash. Happy New Year.